Excuse me. Um, when I first started feeling different is I'm still trying to figure that out. Um, the the most recent that made me that I guess it I've always known, but I was told that I wasn't. So I was just like everybody else. So I didn't think I was different. I thought I just couldn't cope as well as others, I guess. Let's say that. But I'm 43. In a few days, I'll be 44. And a year ago, to the date, almost, I went through a really, 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 really bad breakup. It was a dark night of the soul, spiritual awakening, yada yada. And a few months after, a friend had called, and anyway, I was talking, and I always dreaded when she called. She was the only person that called. She's like anyway, spokesperson, I guess. So, and she said, "You don't have to over explain yourself. Why are you over explaining yourself?" And I was so confused, and I was just like done. But I'm like, why do y'all always tell me I'm over explaining? I'm not. This is, you asked me a question, and this is my answer to it. And I don't, like, okay, can you give me an outline of how to properly answer it for you, so that way I couldn't understand. So that's what I started. Okay, over explaining. When somebody says you're over explaining, why am I over explaining but they're not? It didn't make sense, because everyone that you speak to is on a different level of consciousness and understanding depending on where they are in their ego and their limited thinking. So I have to, like, gauge where you're at in order to give you the answer that you wanted to, because when I just tell you what I want to say, it's not right or appropriate. So I think that was the first time I noticed, a few months ago, at 43. Some signs that no one else noticed, or that I hid. Um, I guess things that nobody noticed were, like both of my younger siblings, they had dyslexia, which I didn't have dyslexia, but I was horrible in math. I didn't even know until recently doing all this that, like, there's a dyslexic version of math. It literally took me 15 years to get my undergrad in interdisciplinary studies because I could not pass math. Um, yeah, like, in fact, like, when I was a senior in high school, like, I took business math because I'm like, yes. And then, like, I think like second day into it, like, I get pulled out of the classroom and they're like, Brandy, what are you doing? You have to take algebra 1 to get into college. You can't take business math. Most people have taken it already. No, you gotta. Yeah. So I think, so looking back, that was something. Then I've had growing pains as a, like, significant enough that my mom took me to several doctors, and I'm 5'1" as a 43-year-old, so I wasn't doing significant growth like, to be expected to, and like, I've had 2 knee surgeries because I have grade 4 chondromalacia, because basically when I've always walked, it's not been a natural course, so it's just grinded away in the cartilage more. Um, the hyper mobility flexibility thing, I have all the double joints and the extended degrees of, stuff. Those were all overlooked. I mean, I've always had the worst menstrual cycles, and I was put on birth control, at the age of 13, antidepressants, because I was diagnosed with general anxiety, social anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, all those things. Yeah. Um, what's that? Oh, my, I'd always scrunch my toes, like socks. Like, I'm very particular about socks, like, and how the seam falls on my toes. And I always scrunch my toes. Like, so in all of my shoes, like, I have holes in where the big toe is just from, like, grinding them away. Uh, that, biting, like, the insides of my cheeks, like, they're all, like, I have, it's like minced meat in there just from always biting my cheeks because that's, I guess, now I know that that was me stemming or, getting the energy out. Um, uh, the executive dysfunction, the PDA, the RSD, all those things that, come with it. Like, yeah, let's just give you 7,000 things instead of the two that could explain them. I don't know. I just never understood how people like didn't, I guess, connect the dots or like put things together. Like, and also note it, like, I like almost like be condescending, like, how do you, like, duh, like, how do you not see this? I don't know. I just, because again, everybody said I'm just like them. So if I'm just like you, why aren't you comprehending the same way I am? Like, and that was about like religion. I come from a very predominant, like, they're Catholics to their core. Now, my person, like my family, my grandma and all them, my mom's side, and I went to Catholic schools. My kids went to Catholic school, and then when I turned 30, when I was pregnant for my youngest, it was actually like around my Saturn return. um I couldn't, like, I was hungry for a deeper connection with God, but I was not getting it in the Catholic Church. And like, but it was so against my family. Like, they were like, you I went to a Pentecostal church and like, oh my God, you're one of those cult people, like you're gonna da da da. And I'm like, dude, like, I have never known and felt Jesus that I do now that I'm in the Pentecostal church. Then like, it didn't understand, like, you are fighting and going so hardcore about your Catholicism, and you don't even practice what you're told. Like, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to go to heaven if I'm wearing a scapula when I die. I'm sorry. I don't think telling a priest 12 fucking Hail Marys is going to get me to heaven. No. But I do know that God wrote a whole freaking Bible and he gave me the word in there. Like, and that's where I deepened my relationship with God. And then I started kind of, after a few years of being there, I was hungry for more, like that connection that I had with God. I'm like, just like, it was, I didn't understand, like, it was going somewhere. So that's actually when I got into recovery and the whole 12-step program. And I remember this old lady, she's been in recovery longer than I've been alive. And she had told me, and I was just expressing my frustration with, like, I just need a deeper connection with God. And I'm so confused. And she's like, oh, baby, you don't need that blue book, or you don't need the Bible. You need this blue book, which is and I'm like, it's based off of like Jesus's teachings, and you think that, like, it just. And then a friend of mine who was also in the Pentecostal church, he's like, look, he's like, you have to realize not everybody has experienced that relationship with God like you have, like we have. Not everybody understands that. And he's like, but that's okay. He's like, take what you need and leave the rest behind. He's like, you'll give, he's like, your participation is more valuable, than you not being here. And I was like, you know what? And it's true. I was just able to look at it as not everybody practices to that same depth as you do. And that's kind of important too in this whole neurodivergent thing. Although I do want to mention my family, they are not like, they're like they don't drink, like, and I'm from the South. Like, it's, I mean, most people have like beer and wine and shit at holidays and birthday parties and stuff. And we never had that, and like, but my grandparents went to, church, and all my aunts and stuff. And like, and they practiced as Catholics, I'm not talking about, but in school, like, seeing, we go, say we were going to Ash Wednesday, and we take ashes out of my ashtray and put them on our foreheads and go to the Powerhouse, which was a drug rehab place for kids in the city, and like go hang out with them. Anyway, so if you were a practicing Catholic and you lived it, then that was one thing. I could jive with that. But if you were, no, we're not from the same wavelength in that. So I didn't realize I can't take advice from someone who's not on that same frequency as my beliefs, if that makes sense, I do want to mention that. So, and also, like, I had never known that Catholics speak in tongues. Like, and this is me. This is another example of, this is very common for neurodivergent people. Like, I go to the store, I can't go less than an hour, and people just talk to me like anyway, I'm at the pasta, and I'm looking at pasta, and this old lady, she's like, baby, she's like, I hope you're okay with this. She's like, but I promise. She's like, I'm a Catholic. I go to, and she says, but God just is telling me to pray. And she prayed over me in the front of the pasta at the Rouse, the supermarket. And she was a Catholic, and she prayed over me in tongues. And that was fine with me because, hey, I was Pentecostal, so it wasn't woo or weird for me. Like, I was okay with that, So, and that's what people aren't able to do, is to see all those avenues. Does that make sense? I don't even know where I'm going with this, but fuck. And another thing was like the boyfriend I had at that time, like I can remember like my father, like they were like, I wanted a schoolie and I'm like all excited and I'm talking about this and I'm like so passionate about it. And like my dad just like shot it down and it just like killed my heart. Anyway, but and like him and my dad were real close and they were talking and he's like she's not like other people. He's like she's soft. She's like she can't take things like other people. She really is like she's just so passionate and like that is her heart and like her desire. He's like I don't know, I can't explain it. He's like but he's like you just got to give her something. You gotta, she's not like other people, you know. um and at that time, you know, I'm like, oh, he thinks I'm special. So, how did masking show up before I knew what masking was or had a word for it? So, yeah, I think like not a lot of people are able to take their lived experiences and understand that their families, you know, were, and that's another thing I never realized. I am from a neurodivergent family, and we were not a normal family at all. So, not only am I seeing the same neurodivergent traits within my immediate mother father household that I grew up in, you know, so we were already different from most people, and that's obvious. That's not a secret. I mean, um, so yeah, like not realizing that I didn't know that um, the instabilities I had coming from a neurodivergent family weren't the norm for other families. Like I'm used to like family, like you know, erratic, like just crazy ideas, impulse, business things. I grew up with that. Yeah, like an example. I'm not mad. No, like I love it. Like I would have never traded my family for anything in the world. You know, my mom on one hand, like she was so fucking street smart, just had no common sense whatsoever. My fucking hairs. Like I mean, a woman. She was a nurse practitioner. She graduated summa cum laude from freaking Loyola with her NP. Anyway, um, and then my father, you know, he only spoke Cajun French whenever he started school. So he had a hard time and he was a defiant child and, you know, he never learned how to read. So, but even so, my father is like so fucking smart. But think about it. He's going without basically thinking. You can't read like, and he drove to freaking Canada. He's driven cross country like before they even had GPS and all that stuff. So imagine like when you had paper maps and like you couldn't read and like you're driving. Like yeah, and my dad's owned very many successful businesses, you know. Anyway, but like an example is okay. I wanted to go when I went to college. Like you just, I mean, that was what you did. I was expect it was well, no, it was never discussed actually. In fact, because my sister didn't want to go to school anymore, so my mom signed her out. I don't even know why the fuck I kept going to school. I don't know. Anyway, but so I wanted to go for photography. I love photography, always did. My dad's like, huh, I like to fish, but you don't see me making a living off of fishing. But actually, that's the industry he's in now, the seafood industry. But anyway, but like, so I went for business or something. At one point, I was at business, and then he's like, no, you need to go for optometry, my friend. Pancho Matos in Old San Juan. We're going to move the houseboat over there, and there's an English school for optometry. You going to do that? Yeah, and like he'd get these little, like, the lotto a few times throughout his life. He did, I believe this was a special interest of his, but that's speculation. Yeah, this is about me. um, like he'd have like I remember 2 or 3 times in my life, like I literally had to write down every possible combination for like the pick five, the whatever, Mega Millions. Like, yeah, he was just obsessed with it because he's like one of them out of numbers. He's always been about numbers. But yeah, so I love my family, fucked up and dysfunctional as they are. Another thing that I've realized too is like we have this hyper sense of like justice or like vigilante behavior. Like I like, oh my God. And we cannot lie to save our life. Like I feel it. So, and I think that's what it is. When somebody says, hey, how you doing? Like, I feel like if I say, oh, fine, I'm lying, and I just spew it out. Like every time I engage with people, when I walk away, I'm like, oh my God, I did it again. Like I'm so embarrassed. But I'm tired of being embarrassed. That's me. I spill too much. I have no filter, and I don't want to cover it up anymore because it's exhausting. It led to an autistic burnout, and learning how perimenopause affects it and in recovery, like my doctor that I go and get my Suboxone shot with, like he's into the MFR, the gene mutation, which, that whole dopamine cycle receptor, and he put me on medication for that. Like none of that, hormone therapy for ADHD. Why was none of that, like, but I know now. And that's the beauty of it, is as much as I know people are laughing and joking and making light of me behind my back and thinking that I'm on a crazy psychosis manic rant right now, um, that's me. I'm very aware of it. I'm very hyper aware of it. That's another thing too, is neurodivergence. It includes ADHD. And I've been ADHD well over a decade, diagnosed, Karen. So why did I not know that? Yes, I do feel too much. I am super sensitive. And why did I never know that there was this thing called HSPs, highly sensitive people? I'm an INFJ. Like, why didn't I, like, oh, it's just everything goes back to the same thing. And that's what I'm fucking certain of, is neurodivergence or the new human. So yeah, like the tipping point that made me realize something's going on was hearing ADHD didn't confuse me or kick off some grief process. It was relief, and it was a sense of belonging, and it was like, oh my God. But then also, like, shame on you for not trusting yourself and not believing in yourself. And sad and wanting to hold her and cuddle her, and but thankful that I did all this deep shadow work and mirror work, and yeah. So I had to experience this life. I chose to experience this life just as it unfolded. And my God, how fucking beautiful. Because I can tell you that I'm much rather being so connected to my body and the world and the beauty of nature and love and life and human companionship and forgiveness. And yeah, man, I found Tantra, and through Tantra, everything I've lived my entire life as a ritual. So yes, I'm too much, because I don't get into superficial relationships. If I'm close to you, I see something in you that nobody else sees. And I bring that out in you. And I bring out all the things that you love about yourself that you're too afraid to show the world, but I also bring forth the things that you're embarrassed and ashamed of. And that's a beautiful thing too, because as long as it evokes some kind of, or provokes some kind of emotional something, that's like the gem, the keys to like whatever's holding you back. Because I will never fit myself into a box again in order to accommodate somebody else and to make them comfortable. Never. So how did I finally come to a late diagnosis or identification? Um, it To be honest, I'm not certain. Like I'm not gonna like fight tooth and nail. Like I'm gonna do it, but more so it was a more of a realization, because my youngest, I've had him tested, and he was at the time only 2, so it was on observation, and he's 12 now, so this was a decade ago. And up until then, you couldn't even have a co-occurring autism with ADHD, and he's already ADHD, and he's already got all the gastro problems. He's got, like, he's very socially awkward. He had developmental delays. He had therapies. He's one of those kids who don't quite fit the visual norm for things, so it's gonna be a little bit more of a push. But it definitely, I've noticed, like, because I always say, like, say what you mean and mean what you say. Like, I like say it, and then like, but he'll, like, whenever in conversations, he'll just pop up with whatever he's interested in, and da da da. But I've noticed, because I used to try to, okay, and like try to teach him how to engage back in conversations, and I wasn't realizing that how difficult that was for him, and like recognizing it in myself. And I'm like, I'm doing to my kid what everybody's done to me. I'm making him try to fit in that mold that I was told you had to fit in. So that's why this is important. um so what I did was I went to Embrace Autism, They have all these wonderful assessments, and the good thing about it is it's specifically for women and late diagnosed, and they have this RADS test, which basically is like camouflaging. It helps you, like, because you've masked so much, it helps you. The questions are done in a way that it allows you to see if you've masked. There's so many, and I mean, I've always been at or above, there was none of them that was like, oh, no, no, you know. And then, so yeah. And with, me already having the ADHD, I think I've said all that stuff before. So that's where I'm at with the diagnostic process. And I've my next appointment with my psychiatrist is coming up, and I'm gonna mention it. Although, like, I'm really scared because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to emotionally regulate, because I don't know if the anger is gonna come out and like the whys and the this and the that, and then plus like it's a conflict because she's now the psychiatrist of, anyway. She's so. But I think what I might do is maybe go to my GP and bring it to him, because I saw a new NP in the in the GP's office, and yeah, and he like caught all kinds of stuff. Like, I mean, I lost like 20 pounds in a month, and then I lost 40 pounds in like 6 months before that. So like altogether I've lost like 50, 60 pounds. Like, and all I can eat is taquitos and the smashed avocado little packet thingies, or Uncrustables, strawberry Uncrustables. That's all I've eaten for the last. Actually, I noticed because I wrote it down whenever I found. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Like, I write all over my walls. I just like, I feel like Albert Einstein, like this mad scientist scribbling all over everything. Like, I painted my bedroom black so I can write in chalk markers and stuff. So, I just to get what's in my head out. I have like 3,000 notebooks. Like, it was so bad. Like, whenever we'd leave to go somewheres when I was in that relationship, and I think that was another thing too. He was somebody I've always dated very strong, confident people who are just have these strong personalities, and he was just like me. He was quiet and calm and reserved, and like whenever I'd freak out, he seemed to be able to, like, just his energy was so peaceful. But like, he was also like very into his cars and music, and like he didn't care what anybody thought, like, and I love that about him. And I think that it allowed me to just relax and put down that mask, and I saw him being himself, and I had never been around somebody like him before, and it allowed me to drop that mask. And even though it ultimately scared him the fuck away, I'm glad that I was able to be myself in front of somebody. Up until then, my 12-year-old is the only other person who's ever seen um, the unmasked version of me. So, you know, and had I not used him as a mirror, and where I would have just been like, nope, get it out my head, get it out my head, push it, whenever it evoked an emotion or a thought or a feeling, like I sat with it and like, hey, what is this really trying to tell me? And yeah, it sucked. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it had to be learned that way. So I am gonna continue this video in I guess a part two. There was 3 parts of this that I wanted to go over. Um, the next is like how I like, or why I turned to astrology, and how astrology and neurodivergence and unmasking and how all of this kind of fits in together, because you might be thinking like, what the fuck? But yeah, like having my birth chart as my blueprint to like help me to come back into my feelings, and to um not dictate, interpret like what they're trying to tell me. And yeah, I've been trying to become somebody else, a whole bunch of somebody else's, so long that I don't know who is the real me and what is masking, and what's appropriate masking, and so yeah, yeah, follow along if you'd like to see the next video. It'll be next week if I can wait. I don't know if consistency is better than just getting it out there. I guess we'll see. And don't forget to join my Discord if you'd like. It's called the MySpace Afterlife. It's basically my special interests where I go and info dump everything. My father's calling.